What's up guys, I'm Clark and this is going to be the first video for DTI Outdoors, hopefully many more to come. In this video, it's been long awaited, people have been asking on TikTok and Instagram. This video is going to be over our season recap of me and some of my buddies that are in this with me and some of my other buddies that are just my hunting friends. And we're going to be covering my season, their season, how everything played out, all the bucks that we got down, all the bad times that we've had this season. So I hope you guys enjoy. All right, first of all, we are going to be covering my deer and my season. Our season started out in northeastern Kansas, and we've got permission up there on some private property by a couple guys. One of my good buddies, Trey, who's in this with me, DTI Outdoors. He is in this with me. We've been best friends since high school, and we've hunted a lot together, but in the last couple of years, we just recently got serious into deer hunting. I took a buck last year up there with him on some of the property that he had, and then we started up there again early season, and we had some really nice deer. So for the beginning of my season, it started out actually on a Saturday before archery season, because I went teal hunting with some of my friends from college. And for us, we have a tradition every single year where we go out and we spend the entire night out in Cheyenne Bottoms that Saturday morning, and then we hunt teal, shoot our limit, and then we come out and we dove hunt, and then we chill, get a few hours of sleep, and go out again Sunday morning. So by the time Sunday evening hit, I was absolutely dead tired. I just couldn't see straight. I was tired. We've been duck hunting and dove hunting all weekend. I was just beat down, and I told myself, man, I should really get out and hunt that opening morning, the 14th. I should really get out. It's on a Monday morning. I ask off for work and everything. I should really get out and do it. You know, I should just suck it up, go hunt. But I didn't, and it definitely cost me. So that morning, the 14th, at 7:24 a.m., we had arguably the biggest buck that we've seen on the property. And it's one of the biggest bucks we've ever had on camera, honestly. Show up at 7:24 that morning in front of my stand at, you know, he got probably 12 yards away. So I was a little bummed about that one. And then just shortly after 7:29, we had two more deer walk by. One is a call buck. He's super solid deer, but he's just a call buck. His genetics are not very good. And the other one was a deer we called Ocho. It's just a big mainframe 8. And they both walked by at 7:29, just right after our big guy walked through. So I missed out on 3 possible deer that morning. So going on from there, the weather was super hot early season. I tried a few sits. I think I probably sat 5 or 6 times, 4, 5, 6 times in that time frame between the beginning of season through the middle of October, and we just wasn't seeing anything. For my first 3 sets, I didn't even see a deer. And then the next set that I did see a deer, a doe came behind me, winded me, and I barely got to see her anyways. So the beginning of our season was very rough. Getting into the next phase, we kind of fast forward into what we call pre-rut. And getting into pre-rut, back there, we weren't seeing a whole lot of deer movement on the properties that we had. Well, we're going through the end of October, middle and into the end of October, and we haven't seen anything. We haven't seen anything there. We got some property back here at home on central Kansas, and we haven't seen a whole lot there. There's people around us that are starting to see some pretty good movement. A lot of younger bucks getting worked up and chasing does, but we're just really not seeing much. I for sure didn't see a lot of bucks. I saw a little bit of doe activity while I was in the stand, but just not a lot of buck activity, even though we were getting deer on camera. Well, I can't remember exactly what day it was, but I remember getting a call or getting a message from Trey, who went up and hunted one of the stands that we had. It was super, super cold day. I went up and sat in the stand, I think a few days before, and there was a good deer in there we called the satellite buck. I couldn't tell you, he saw him in person, I've never seen him in person, but judging off the camera, we're guessing he's probably around the 130, 140 range maybe. Just a big old, big old buck. We're guessing age-wise he's got to be in the 4.5, maybe 5.5 range. But just a big old Kansas brute. I mean, this deer was thick. And I got that message that said, I think I just shot the satellite buck. And I'm like, heck yeah. I mean, awesome. This buck that we've been watching, never seen before. We just set the cameras not too long ago on this property, and he just shows up all of a sudden for 2 weeks. And then we get, I get that message that, hey, I think I just shot him. So awesome, I'm ecstatic. I'm ready to hop in the truck and drive 2 hours to go help him look for this deer. But unfortunately, how it worked out was Trey had hit a branch and it had ricocheted down, and he shot just under the buck. So he thought he got him, thought he heard him crash and everything, but it must have been just him running through the trees because no deer. So that was kind of a damper on the season, especially for him, because he had never killed a deer with a bow before. So after that, we were kind of bummed out. We hadn't been seeing a whole lot. He hadn't had a whole lot of time to hunt anyways. I had way more time to hunt than he had, and I didn't have a whole lot of time to hunt either. But we were in the dumps. It was not a good time. The weather went back to being hot. The deer activity slowed down even worse than what we were normally seeing, which wasn't very active anyway because the weather had been just so up and down throughout the whole season anyway so far. But we knew that rut was going to come, and that was going to be a really good opportunity. We had a lot of good setups for rut. Fast forward now into the beginning of rut, and I'm not talking pre-rut, but I'm talking the beginning of rut. And then all that property up there is starting to get new bucks. So we're getting super excited for that. But back here in central Kansas, we're not seeing a whole lot. And people around us, I mean, I'm talking people that hunt 10 miles away from us, are seeing activity, but where we're at, we were just not seeing activity. We have this spell of cold weather come through. November 21st, that's a Saturday. And that's a day that I said, I'm gonna hunt back here at home. I'm not gonna drive up to Trey's place to hunt. I'm gonna hunt back here at home. So November 21st, I wake up and I remember saying, I need to go set in the afternoon. I just feel like that's my best option. The night before, I thought about waking up and going in the morning because we had been seeing activity all throughout the day, but the evening was my best shot. So I woke up, slept in a little bit, and then I woke up. I kept an eye out across the road because we have a big CRP patch across the road that deer bed in, and then they walk through, and then they go over a hill down into a ravine, and there's a creek bottom with trees, and that's where the stand is. I mean, it's literally a half a mile from the house. I remember getting some stuff ready. I was going to run into town. I was going to get a few things. This was about 10:30 in the morning. I said, I'm going to get some things, I'm going to get back, and I'm going to be in the stand by 12:30. And I get over here to the shed. I've got all my clothes laid out, sprayed them down with scent killer. I was gonna get everything ready, so when I got back, I could get dressed, go over, get in the stand. And I remember looking over in the CRP patch, right when I pull over, and there's a buck standing there looking at me. He's a little guy, 2.5-year-old deer, but he's just sitting there staring at me, and he's no more than 150 yards away, and he's just not moving. I get out and I look at him, I'm like, what's this guy doing? And then he just lays down. He just lays down in the CRP. And I'm thinking, okay, this is a really cool sign. The deer are up and moving. It's the first day right into a cold front. So those deer are gonna be looking for food, hopefully the does, and then the bucks will be after the does. Well, the buck laid down, and then all of a sudden, 5 minutes after, a doe stands up. And I'm thinking, that's why he didn't go. That's why he didn't go anywhere, because he's so hot on this doe. She gets up, she runs away, and then he just instantly just goes running after her. And right then and there, I thought, okay, I have no time to go to town. I need to get in the stand now because they're obviously up and moving, chasing does. So I don't go into town. I go back to the house. I get a quick bite to eat, shower off, come back, get my stuff, and I get in the stand about 11:30. And I said, I'm going to sit all day long. I'm going to sit from 11:30 till sunset, which was like 5:46, 5:47, I think, that day. So I grab my stuff, drive around the section, get to the place we parked. I'm walking in. It's kind of rainy off and on throughout the day, which was a good thing. It helped a lot towards the end. The only downside of it was I couldn't bring my camera to film, so I don't have my kill shot on there, but you know, it is what it is. Get down in there, get down in the stand, and I'm thinking, man, this is just such a great day. Because the temp was dropping throughout the day as I got into the stand, and I saw a lot of deer movement. So all throughout the day, I had 4 bucks, not a single doe, all bucks, walk by the stand cruising through, looking for does. And it was really awesome to see because I got to see every imaginable, other than fight. I did not get to see any fighting, but I got to see every characteristic of a deer during rut, during that hunt. Previously, I'd hunted the stand one evening before that. I think it was the week before, and it was super hot and the wind wasn't right. The wind switched up halfway through the hunt, and where these deer came from was where a buck came from and winded me on my previous hunt. But now that the wind was right, these deer walked 15 yards away, and I remember seeing 2 bucks. There was a buck move through, and then another buck right after him came through, and they came from the north down this tree line. And then not too long after that, I remember a different buck coming from the south, same tree line, but coming from the south, walked the same path they did. He worked his way to the north, and he got really close. He got within probably 10 yards of the tree, which was super awesome to see. And then a couple hours later, another buck came by, and another little guy, but he came from behind us. He came from the west, and he came from over. There's a big CRP patch. The hill, it goes back up a ravine, and then it's a CRP for the whole half mile over there. And he came from there, which is where a lot of deer come from, around there. And he came, I remember him coming down, and I heard him, and I looked over, and he was just right there. And he got, again, within probably 10, 15 yards of the tree, and he put on a show. And if you're a bow hunter, you know what it's like when a deer does all this in front of you. It's really exciting. It's awesome to see nature up close like that. Well, he's tearing up this tree, and then he starts walking back, kind of takes a look at the feeder, but he's like, I'm not too worried about that. And then he walks past the feeder and goes to a scrape that's probably 15 yards from the feeder, if that. And it's about an 18-yard shot to this scrape. And he starts, he lifts his head up, and he's rattling up in the branches and knocking some stuff over, and he scrapes a little bit with his hoof, and takes a few steps forward, checks another scrape area just right there in front of it, takes a piss, does everything that a deer does by a scrape. And I'm sitting there this whole time, and I am just shaking like a leaf. I mean, I knew I was never going to sling an arrow at this deer, but it was awesome to see. I love it. Every time I'm close to an animal like that, I just start shaking because I'm just so excited. Well, fast forward a few hours, I didn't see anything. I think that was about 3:30-ish in the afternoon when that little buck was. And after, he stayed around for probably 10, 15 minutes, and then he left. And I didn't see anything after that, getting into the evening, and I'm thinking, okay, well, that was an awesome day. I got to see it, but unfortunately, I just haven't seen my deer yet. And this is getting to about 15 minutes before legal light was over. The sun had already set, but here in Kansas, you got a half an hour after sunset to shoot, and that's considered legal. So, 15 minutes after, it's getting kind of dark. At this point, it's overcast. The rain had quit. It had rained throughout the day off and on, but the rain had quit, but the temp had dropped quite a bit, and it was getting dark. And I'm thinking, do I stick it out and get to the last minute like most people would, or do I just head out now? Well, I decided to just sit it out, because I thought, no, if you leave now, that's the time the big buck's gonna come by. And when he comes by and you go check your cameras later and you find out that he was there in legal light and you didn't shoot at him, you know, you're gonna be beating yourself up. So I decided to stick it out. Well, 10 minutes later, my mind changed. And I thought, no, I'm just gonna get out, because I'm gonna get out now. I'm gonna start packing my stuff up. I don't think I'm gonna see a deer. I just don't have that feeling. So I took my bow off my hanger, and then I took my quiver off, because I take my quiver off when I get in the stand. So I had my bow off the hanger, then I took my quiver off, and I hung my bow back up. I put my release in my jacket pocket, zipped it up and everything. I had taken the arrow out of the bow. As I was putting the arrow down into the quiver, I look up and I just see the rack running down the hill. And I mean, it's not walking slowly, he's coming down in a hurry. He's wanting to get down in there. And I just freeze. And I think, oh crap, what have I done? Because it's still legal shooting light. And I'm putting my stuff up, and sure enough, here he comes. How am I gonna get this done without him hearing me or seeing me? So I hold my quiver in between my legs. I take my bow back off the hanger, and this felt like forever. I'm sure from the time I saw the deer to the time I shot was maybe 45 seconds, but it felt like hours. I remember taking my bow off, put the arrow in, and I thought, oh crap, I gotta unzip my pocket, pull my release out, get my release on. And by this time, he's still munching. He doesn't care. He doesn't know I'm there. I'm not being loud, but every movement I make, I feel like I'm being loud. And I get all situated up, and I draw back. I get down on him, and he's quartered to me. Well, my bow is set at 70 pounds, or right under 70 pounds. I'm 20 yards. I think, man, if I just try to break that front leg, I could do it. I know I could, because I'd shot a doe almost in that exact spot. Earlier in the year, same shot, quartered to, and she didn't go 80 yards. So I'm playing this all in my head as fast as I can, because legal light is fading. It's already getting pretty dark. My peep, my sight, everything's black. I don't have the sight light on, so I can just see the outlines of my pins, and then I can see the tiny little glow of the tritium in them. So I'm thinking, okay, I need to do this now if I want to get it done. So I put it right where I thought I needed to put it, squeezed off, schwack, nailed this deer. He runs off. He had his head up, tail down. I remember watching him start running up the hill, the same exact direction that the doe went, and I thought, heck yeah, that deer is going to be right over the hill. It's going to go maybe 100 yards, just like the doe did. I just got him. I was so in shock, I didn't even have time to start shaking. I was so in shock from this deer. Well, I get down out of the tree stand after about 15, 20 minutes. I gathered myself, got all my gear down. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go check this arrow out. And I'm going to pull the card just so I can see what's all been there. Well, I checked the arrow, and the arrow looks really good. I mean, it's got blood. The broadhead opened all the way up. I got blood all down this arrow, and I got some bubbles on the veins, which everyone knows if you get bubbles, you most likely have a lung shot. So I'm thinking positive. I'm thinking, heck yeah, I got this deer good. But I start looking on the ground, and there's some fur with some blood on it, but there's not a lot of blood on the ground. And by not a lot of blood, I mean just a few droplets. There's no sprayed blood, there's no blood right where he got shot, and so far I haven't seen a blood trail. This isn't the best sign, but a lot of deer don't bleed right away when you shoot. So I walk up the hill in the direction that he went. I'm just looking on the ground, looking for blood, not seeing anything. I didn't have my headlamp with me, shocker. So I'm using my phone light down on the ground, can't see any blood, and I get up through the trees to where I lost sight of him. And I don't see anything. I don't see anything up in the field. It's super dark, so I said, okay, I'm gonna back out now. I'm gonna walk back to the truck. I'm gonna call one of my buddies. One of my buddies ended up coming out and helping me look for him for about 30 minutes after. He got there, got to the house about an hour. This would have been about an hour now after the shot. And I'm surely If he's hit where I think he's hit, he's going to be down. So we look all the way up this pasture going up the hill, and we don't see anything. No deer laying down where the doe was, just nothing. No deer and no blood. And my heart starts sinking a little bit, thinking, did I pull this shot? Did I make a bad shot on it? I know I hit him because I got blood on the arrow and we got fur on the ground, but you know, what's going on? What happened here? So after about 30 minutes of looking up the hill, we looked through some CRP, we just couldn't, nothing. We couldn't find this deer. So we said, okay, just back out as much as I don't want to. Back out, and I'm gonna go back to the house. I'm gonna go all night, and I'm gonna get up super early in the morning, right at light, and I'm gonna go out again and look. Well, that was obviously a sleepless night. I didn't sleep very well at all. I woke up in the morning, another different guy came out and helped me look in the morning, and we followed his path that the deer went. We went everywhere that we thought that deer could have been. There's a pond just over the hill, a couple hundred yards away from the shop. We're like, let's go take a look there. No deer, couldn't find him. Walked through some CRP, couldn't find him. Followed our ravine. There's a deeper bottom in the CRP where the stuff gets really, really thick, and you got cane patches and that are way taller than I am. And we're just like, man, if there was a deer in here laying down, you couldn't see it. You wouldn't even know it was here unless you stepped on it. So my heart starts sinking. I'm thinking, man, you can't tell me that the biggest deer of my entire life I had lost, you know, with a bow. And this would have been the first buck with the new bow, and I was getting pretty bummed out, but I had to go to work, so I couldn't look all day. And I was just a pain in the butt all day long. But that evening, I remember hearing about a guy out of Hutch, Kansas, with a dog. And I thought, man, if I don't want to pay for a tracking dog, I don't want to have to pay for it, but it's getting down to the option where this is all I've got. You know, this is the best opportunity for me to find. So I give him a call, and he said he can't show up until Monday evening. And I said, okay, that's fine. Come on down whenever you can. Well, I go all that day work worrying about it. I go all the next day at work worrying about it. But I knew that day, that evening, that he was going to be here. And if we couldn't find it with the dog, then we probably weren't going to find it until later on when we saw buzzards or something, because we'd been looking around for coyotes and that, and we just didn't see anything. But hopefully this guy with the dog is legit. You know, I've heard really good things about him, and hopefully he can get it done. So he shows up to the house about 6 o'clock, and I tell him everything, what happened, the arrow, the broadhead, the shot placement, the time, everything, where he ran to. We go check it out. And he's running his dog down the path, and he's just not picking anything up. It's a decent, cool night. We had a hard 17-mile-an-hour wind coming from the south. And we worked it from the north to the south because, you know, with the wind blowing in the dog's face, it would just work out that way. And if he caught wind of it, then he could just lead us straight to it. Well, he was telling me about the dog and how it worked, and he said that the dog had, with a strong wind like that, the dog had picked up scent before from deer, you know, up to a mile, half a mile away. So we're working back the whole fence line, evergreens where they normally bed. We're working all of that back, and he's just not picking a lot up. He's picking up deer scent, but he's not picking up my deer. You know, he's picking up all the other deer that have been there in the time frame, in the 2-day time frame that we had in between the shot and him being there. Well, we're getting to about an hour into the track, and we're just working this back and forth, the CRP patch just up and down, back and forth. He's just not, you know, he's just not picking anything up. We had been talking the whole time about stuff, so it kind of took my mind off of it. But in the back of my mind, I was just like, man, I don't know if we're going to find this buck. And if not, well, I just paid a guy to come down here, run around with his dog, and not find a deer. Well, about 20 minutes later, we're working this bottom. We're walking through, and the dog's head just raises up and turns, facing the south. And he just starts wanting to take off. And the guy with the dog said, okay, this is it. He's like, this is what I told you about. When the dog's head goes up and he starts running with his head up, jumping through the grass, this is it, because he's on something. So we start taking off through the grass. I mean, this is at night. It's dark outside, and we're just running through the grass trying to follow this dog. And he's going in a straight line for about 80 yards or so, and then he starts kind of bouncing around, going back and forth, and then he starts doing the zigzag thing again. I had never had any experience with tracking dogs before, so I didn't know if that was normal or what the situation was. So I was watching the runner, and he was watching the dog, and I was watching him. There's a 10-minute time frame in there where he was just birdie as hell. You could say birdie. Well, he was just birdie as hell. And then all of a sudden he just kind of shut off. And I went from super excited to super bummed. I could tell he was kind of getting bummed out too. And he looked back at me and he said, dang it. He's like, I thought he really had it right there. Well, we're kind of zigzagging through. The dog had slowed down at this time. And we're walking back and forth along the general direction of where he was headed towards. And we get up to this grove of trees. And I remember shining my light over. My eyes got real big, and I said, there he is. And he goes, do you see him? And I said, yeah, I can see his rack sticking out. And sure enough, stuck up under this grove of trees and not 200 yards away from the house across the road is my buck laying down under a tree. And the coyotes, I mean, obviously the coyotes had tore him up by then. It was 2 days after the night of the shot. So everything from the neck down was tore up. No meat, no hide, nothing. It was gone. But there he was. And right then I just had a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. I took a deep breath. I was like, oh man, I found him. Thanks to the guy with his dog, his name's Skeeter, out of Hutchinson, Kansas. Skeeter's dog's name is Buster. Thanks to them, I would have never been able to find this deer, or if I would have, it probably would have been a long time after that, maybe walking for pheasants or something. But I had finally found my deer. Well, it turns out he's the biggest deer that I've ever killed in my entire life. He scored right at 141 and 3/8, I think, 141 and 3/8, sounds right. But he'd been the biggest deer that I've killed in my entire life. Got him with a new bow. Unfortunately, I didn't find him right away, but we did find him, and that's what mattered most to me at that moment. Was I got my deer, I got my tag on him. I don't have to worry anymore, and I was super thankful. I was thankful for everybody that told me to keep my head up. I was thankful for Skeeter and Buster for coming out and helping me out. It meant the world to me. I was super happy, and that's how my season played out. Well, fast forward to next weekend. This is November 28th. Trey comes down. He says he's going to hunt that Saturday here in the same stand that I got my buck out of, because I told him that we were seeing a lot of rut activity. There'd been a lot of deer running around since I shot mine still, so you need to get up here if you want to get in on this activity. So he comes down that Friday night beforehand. We talk about the deer that we still have on camera, what we want to take off the property, what we want to leave, because there's a couple young bucks that had super good potential that we didn't want to shoot, but it was also going to be his first deer ever with a bow, so we didn't want to be too picky. So we wake up that morning, we walk into the stand together. We had hung up a double hang-on stand. One side of the tree was set up for the camera guy, and the other stand was set up for the shooter. So I had hung up a camera arm. This is just right when I got the camera arm in. I just wanted to kind of test it out. I hadn't had a fluid head yet, unfortunately, so the camera was just fixed at one height, but it would have to work. I did the filming for the deer on my phone. I put the camera on him to try to get the shot. Well, right at first light, he says, there's a deer coming down the hill. And this is about probably 5 minutes before legal light. And he goes, there's a deer coming down the hill. And the 2 days prior to that, right at daylight, we had pictures of a deer, a new buck that we hadn't seen all season, come down. He was this huge 8 with a broken tine, so he'd be a 7 technically, but this huge 8. And apparently he was an old deer, because one of the neighbors that we have messaged me after I sent him the picture of the deer, and he said, "We know that deer. You need to shoot him because he's been around a lot, or he's been around for a long time." And we said, "Yeah, 100%. If he's there, we're going to shoot him." So those 2 days prior to that, he showed up right at daylight, and we're thinking, "Oh man, this is going to be 3 days in a row, and he's going to be there. You know, this is going to be him actually patterning during rut." Well, it turns out it wasn't him. It was just this younger buck that came down. Our wind wasn't great, so we were kind of afraid that, you know, if a deer came down there and walked just a little bit to our north, because we had a south wind, just a little bit to our north, it was going to play out the way one of my sets did, where a buck had winded me in the same situation. But it didn't seem to bother. Luckily, the wind held off in the morning for us, and it didn't seem to bother him at all. He got within 12 yards of us. He hung around for about 15-20 minutes and then kind of slowly worked his way off, which is super cool. It kept us busy right at light. And then after he left, I want to say probably 15 minutes passed, maybe 10-15 minutes, and we're looking around, and I heard something sounded like grass being kicked around behind me. And there are cattle in a pasture up behind us, but the cattle were all off to the north because I remember seeing them up there when we walked in the morning. So I slowly turned my head over, and out of the CRP coming straight down on a trot is a buck. And I didn't get a very good look at him right away. I just knew this was probably going to be a buck that he was going to want to shoot, or definitely take a look at to decide if he wanted to shoot. So I turned around real quick and I looked at him and I said, "Grab your bow." And he was like, "What?" And I said, "Grab your bow now." And he's thinking in his mind, he's thinking, do I grab the bow super fast? Because normally when you grab a bow, you don't just throw your hand up there real fast because you don't want to make a lot of movement, but like you need to grab your bow now. So he reaches up, grabs his bow, and he told me that right when he grabbed his bow, he could see him past me. He could see this buck. And this buck had, by this point, made it down across the fence, across the little creek bottom, and he was standing probably 12, 13 yards away where all the other deer had been, 12, 13 yards away from the tree, looking sort of in our direction. He wasn't looking directly at us, but he was looking in our direction. So he gets his bow off, luckily before the deer got out in front of us. And I didn't have time to I didn't want to reach up and flip the camera on because I didn't want to make too much movement because the deer was on my side. So I slowly pulled my phone out of my pocket and I got it on the deer, hit record, and then right about that time the deer starts checking the scrape. So in the moment, I'm looking at this deer, thinking it out. I'm thinking, I don't think I've ever seen this deer in my entire life. We haven't had him on camera all year, nothing. And he says again, he goes, "Do you want me to shoot this deer?" And I look at him and I said, "Yeah." Right then, the minute I said yeah, he draws his bow back, gets ready. Right as he draws his bow back, I remember the deer turning to us, kind of quarter to, and I'm thinking, "Oh Lord, don't take this shot, please. Please don't take this shot," because this is the same exact shot I had, and I didn't find my deer for 2 days after. So I was like, "Oh, don't take this shot." And luckily, in his mind, he was thinking the same thing. He said, "Yeah, I was going to take that shot, but I remember what happened with your deer, so I held off." get the camera on him all steadied up, and then schwack, smoked him. And this deer kind of jumps. I think he did I can't remember if he did the kick, but I think he kicked a little bit, and then he starts taking off, but he's limping real bad. And I'm thinking, heck yeah, smokes this deer. Now, he doesn't have luminox, so we couldn't see exactly where he hit the deer, but we heard bone break, and we're like, heck yes, this deer is smoked. And he runs about 40 yards to the south, and he stops, and he's just standing there. Then after a little bit, he's standing there, and we can see the blood pumping out of him. He just starts slowly hobbling his way up the hill, and we're thinking, man, how does he, how's he doing this? There was blood running down both legs. We're thinking, how's he doing this? And Trey's all nervous. He's shaking real bad. I finally got the camera on to him so I could catch his reaction, at least his post-shot reaction. And we're watching this deer, and this whole time I'm thinking, surely he's going to go down. Surely he's going to go down. I think he put a heck of a shot on him. Well, Trey had told me, he's like, it was forward. And I said, well, how far forward? And he goes, just a little bit, but it's forward. And I'm thinking, okay, so where would it have hit this deer to have so much blood pumping out of him, and break a leg, but yet he's still able to walk like this? Because he was walking decently well. He was hobbling, he was kind of swaying, head was down, but he was still walking and still walking. And he made it all the way up the hill to the fence line, and we're watching him walk down the fence line, and we're like, how has he not dropped yet? Because I thought he clipped the heart with as much blood as there was there. But he said it was far enough forward where he didn't think he got the heart. So we sit there, we kind of wait it out. We get out of the tree.
He run right through here. Right there. What? Blood. Okay, I'm feeling a little better. Yeah. Man, he's bleeding hard.
We look at the blood trail, I mean, it is just pouring out of him. And where he stopped it, the ground was just red all around there. And we think, okay, let's back out of here.
All right, guys, we're out of the stand. We got a super good blood trail. Trey just put a heck of a shot on this buck. It's a little far forward, we think, but just a touch. We think his legs broke, and he is just bleeding, steady bleeding out. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna back out. We're gonna get back to the truck. We're gonna warm up a little bit, see if we can glass him. He was walking his fence line up, but just super slow, head bobbing, you know. Blood covered on both front legs. So we're gonna back out. We're gonna regather. We're gonna try to get this recovery on video for you guys.
So we get back to the stand, we get right where we shot him, again, where the arrow was, and we just start following the trail up.
The dew is all starting to wear off, so the blood is running down the leaves now.
Yeah. That is just crazy good blood.
So he's squirting.
Yeah, he's squirting blood.
Look at that, it's like foaming.
Right here. Blood. Blood right there. Blood right there.
Blood all through here.
Blood. Blood, look at that. So we followed it all the way up the hill, zigzagging through. We get a couple hundred yards into this trail and we're thinking, man, how is this deer not down yet? Because his blood's pretty high. I mean, it's squirting out of him onto the grass and the trees and everything that he's bumping up against. It's just squirting out everywhere. So surely he's got to be down. And all of a sudden we lost the trail.
I apologize if the video's blurry. I don't have a viewfinder on this thing. So we lost it. We lost the trail. How far back do you think that was?
I refound it right away.
Okay. Okay. So we thought we lost it, but Trey just found it here again.
He's dumping.
He cut back.
Last 20 yards is nothing but puddle. That's it.
Yeah.
It's like that all the way through.
Okay. So we cut back on us. Okay.
The only thing I can say is when I was down there walking around previously blind, when I was walking blind,
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. I only heard one thing. But I don't know. I feel like I might have heard him get up or something. I don't know. I never saw anything. I only heard one sound. Like, I don't know.
That might have been me too.
Exactly. I didn't know you were even out there.
Yeah, I was out here.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you can see back through there. It's just puddles of blood all the way up.
let's keep following this. It's good blood.
Yeah, I mean,
It's solid blood.
Well, this deer had taken a complete 90-degree turn from his original path that we've been following, and he just walked straight into the CRP, headed to the east, kind of headed in the direction that my buck ended up dying. Well, as we're following this zigzag trail through the CRP of blood, all of a sudden we hear a noise. And we look over, and his buck is up and running, or trying to run. He's only got 3 legs. And we're like, how is this deer up? How is this deer still moving? Because he has lost so much blood at this point. We're going now on about an hour 15, hour 20 after the shot. And we thought, sure enough, he was going to be done by all this blood. Well, he was up and he was running. And we were like, okay, we got to keep eyes on this deer to see where he goes. Well, the deer makes it probably another 150 yards, and he beds back down. And we're like, okay, we know how we can kind of sneak through this bottom and get up over this terrace, and you can get another shot on him. So that's what we did. We snuck up as quiet as we could. At this point, I think the deer's adrenaline had either worn off or he had just run out of so much blood that he couldn't keep going, and Trey was able to put another arrow into him.
Down right there. Oh my gosh. I was on his blood trail. He's just pumping blood. He's just pumping blood. It was just a matter of time.
I think if we gave him a little more time, he was dying before we jumped him the first time. And I know now, if I heard over there,
yeah,
it was him.
It had to be him.
It was him. It was not you. It was the same noise. So if we'd have gave him a little more time, maybe. But I thought he was going to be dead.
I did too. I mean, that's heart blood. The whole way.
I'm pretty sure I just stone cold stunned him again too.
He's down just right there in that tree.
Head down yet?
He quit. Yeah, he quit squirming.
He's done.
He's done. Dude, what? Oh man, good work. Heck yeah.
Wasn't his textbook at the end.
No.
I was hoping it was going to be, but.
What do? You know. I thought he was going to be.
On the bright side, that deer's not hurting anymore. It was longer than it should have been.
Yeah.
But he's done.
I thought he was going to be stone cold.
He almost made it all the way back to the pond.
Almost. I mean, just steady blood.
Yeah, whole time.
Steady heart blood.
Whole time.
It's amazing he made it that far.
It'd be really interesting to see where that first arrow hit.
And how long did we wait? I mean, we waited 45 to an hour.
Which I thought was going to be 30 minutes longer than it needed to be. I mean, the way that deer acted after the shot.
I think he's done now, though. He's on the other side, man. He's down right there in the tree. Yeah, he's down. You can go walk up on him. He's still alive. Alright guys, we're going to get him out of here and post a video afterwards. We're just going to get him out of this tree. Heck yeah, dude. Break this down. Right here. Oh man. Break this down.
Look at that.
Heck yeah, dude.
He broke that off. He had a split right here.
Yeah, I see that. Man.
Cool buck.
Heck yeah, first archery deer.
That is cool.
That's awesome.
And that rage just takes a chunk out of him.
Pretty black.
Unfortunately, the deer didn't die right after the first shot like we all would like him to. And hindsight, looking back, we should have waited a little bit longer, and he probably would have died just right there where he had bedded the first time. But judging off the blood that we saw and the way he was walking, we were like, surely, an hour and a half after the shot, he'd been dead. But that wasn't the case. Luckily, after the second shot, he was done, and it was over with. Trey had got his first deer with a bow ever, and he was a heck of a good deer. I was super proud of him. He was excited, I was excited, and it was a great time. Well, the weekend after that, we had planned for one of my buddies, Jordan, to come down and hunt for rifle. It would have been the first weekend of rifle season. He came down, we sat Saturday, didn't see any deer at all, unfortunately, so he didn't get anything done that weekend. He could only hunt that Saturday too, so we had to wait till the next weekend. So fast forward to the next weekend, which would have been this weekend. Trey came down with his wife, Hannah. We sat out in the morning, didn't see a deer, unfortunately. We were going to try to get her first buck with a rifle. Didn't see anything, unfortunately. They couldn't hunt that evening, so they headed back. Well, Jordan, who had came out with me the weekend before that, we didn't see any deer at all. He went up to some of their property they had, and he ended up getting a buck and a doe with his rifle. So overall, we had 4 Saturdays worth of hunting in a row, and we got 3 bucks down in 4 Saturdays, 2 with a bow, 1 with a rifle. It turns out one of our worst seasons that we've had turned out to be one of the coolest seasons. We learned a whole lot about deer. We learned a lot about ourselves as far as deer hunting. We grew a lot. We had a great season. Unfortunately, some of us couldn't get done, or we had some unfortunate happenings like misses, couldn't find the deer after the shot. But we learned from all that stuff, and that's what's important. When you hunt, you know nothing's going to go exactly as planned, or very rarely does it ever go as planned. But you have to be ready for things when they go wrong, or when they don't go as planned. You got to be ready for things like that. And that's what makes the hunter. Those are the experiences we live for, is when something doesn't go right, or something tests us, that we can keep it together, grow as hunters, grow as people, mature from it, and apply what we've learned from that season or that experience, apply that to our next experience. And sure enough, that's what we've done. We were super thankful, super blessed for everything that we have and that we've gone through this season, with all the bucks that we got down and the time that we got to spend with each other. It was a great time. I hope all of you have had successful seasons and have learned a lot from your seasons as well. Lastly, I would like to thank each and every one of you for the support. I know we've been talking about this YouTube thing for a little while, but we're just like you. We're good old country boys just trying to make a living, so we don't have as much time as we'd like to film stuff and film hunts and get out, do everything. And then not only that, but we don't have a whole lot of time to do editing. We don't have a whole lot of time to get all the gear that we want in, but we're working on it. We're trying our best to get good content to you guys, and hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully you'll stick with us and enjoy all the videos to come. We've got a lot of good ideas, a lot of things coming up, so thank you for the support. Again, we love each and every one of you, and good luck on your seasons and seasons to come.